towards the end of his life, after his wife dies. By the way, his wife was super cool.
Leopold's wife was super cool?
Yeah, she was great.
Oh, my
When
goodness.
they got married, I think it was Queen Victoria said that it was that rather than a prince and a princess, it was like a marriage between a stable boy and a nun. And Leopold is the nun. Because his wife was awesome. She loved animals. She loved horses. And she would train her own horses so well that she could send them to her rooms in the palace to fetch things. Yes. The general, she became really good friends with this general, and he was so impressed with her that he would have her come out to the parade grounds and lead practice cavalry charges.
That's amazing.
She was awesome. He treated her like garbage, and she died miserable because he was a monster. After she dies, he becomes very blatant about this, about his favorite, the biographies of the time, or his favorite mistress, this 16-year-old girl, who, it turns out, yes, is a con woman and steals huge amounts of his money. Yes!
I don't even know what to think about that.
Steal from him and then stab him! She does not stab him, unfortunately. She remains at least superficially loyal to him until he eventually dies of stomach cancer, probably stomach cancer. They were kind of euphemistic about what he ends up dying of. They say that it's like an intestinal blockage, but it was probably stomach cancer.
Good.
He dies. Thank heaven. But first they take the Congo away from him while he is still alive. The parliament comes in and says, no. We've read all this stuff, and the entire world is perturbed about this whole, like,
We are
human
most
hands
displeased,
thing.
sir.
We are most displeased, sir. He actually was able to put it off for a long time because he kept just, like, dumping money into these, like, public monuments and, like, beautification projects. And he built this weird Japanese tower that he saw and thought looked cool.
Oh, I've got one more. When reports did start coming out of possible atrocities in the Congo, he said, well, we need to put a stop to that, and created an organization for the protection of the natives.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And, sorry, I don't mean...
He did that twice, actually.
Yeah, so he was very good at smoke screens.
The first time it worked, because it was all his flunkies. And they just came back and were like, we found 2 guys that were really bad and were using severed heads as lawn ornaments.
Good job, we got rid of those guys.
Good thing we got rid of those guys. And it all came back fine. The second time, he sends all of his flunkies down, just like, same thing as last time, guys. Let's go, let's go, let's go. They go down there, and according to reports at the time, one of the judges that he sends, upon seeing the evidence, breaks down and cries in the courtroom.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he was human.
Because not even his flunkies, like his bought and paid for guys, were willing to turn a blind eye at that point. So, they take away the Congo. Before they do, his office spends 8 days burning records.
Oh.
He says they can take away my Congo, but they have no right to know what I did there.
Oh.
He burns the records, hands over control. At this point, it's not even that profitable anymore, and he just kind of, I'm out. Cash me out. Not only that, he gets Parliament to pick up the debts of the colony.
Oh.
He's like, no. Debts are off of my hands. So he goes off, dies of stomach cancer.
It's not enough.
It really doesn't. It doesn't feel like enough. So
I understand he was hated by his people, though. So that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yes. But not for very long. and not primarily for the Congo thing.
Ah, dang it.
Mostly for how he treated his daughters.
Oh.
So, he dies. They find out that he's left most of his fortune, contrary to law, to his mistress. They find out that he's embezzled massive amounts of money from the Belgian state and from the Congo and from his sister. Remember Carlotta?
Carlotta? The poor crazy idealist?
Poor crazy idealist that's been living in this castle alone. He has embezzled her entire estate and replaced it with bonds for the Congo. There you go. That'll buy something real nice for you.
Oh, no.
Okay.
She spent most of those 40 years just looking at pictures of Maximilian and weeping.
She refused to believe he was dead for most of that time. It wasn't until decades later that she actually came to grips with it. And, like, anyway, it's a whole sad thing. So, Leopold, after he's gone, the Belgian government goes in and they start snooping around. Namely, they're looking around and saying, where did all the people go? Here come the numbers. They figure that when Stanley first came to the Congo, the region had between 20 and 30 million inhabitants.
Okay.
By the time they wrested control from King Leopold, 50% of those people had been killed.
Oh, man, that is a huge genocide.
Between 10 and 15 million people.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
So, Holocaust numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that might be the worst guy ever.
Now, jump forward. Well, there's other
Do I have to?
There's other unfortunate things that happen in the in-between. But you jump forward to like the 70s. And there's a Belgian historian who works for the Belgian State Department, who is, I can't remember what country he's visiting, but they mention, oh, by the way, Belgium was responsible for 10 million deaths in the Congo in the early years of the 20th century. By the way, early years of the 20th century, they were still
1900s.
This is 1900s. They were still impressing locals to harvest rubber into World War II.
Oh.
That's how recent this is.
Ah.
But 1970s historian working for the Belgian State Department hears this number and says, that's not real. That's not a
Can't
thing,
be.
right? I would have heard about this.
Yeah, if my country was responsible for 10 million deaths,
If my country was
that would
responsible
have come
for
up.
a Holocaust, I feel like I would have heard about it.
You would think.
You would think. And that's where awareness starts coming back, right? Because people had kind of moved on, right? We had this like global outrage with like Mark Twain and Arthur Conan Doyle and everything. You had this global human rights movement, but they kind of felt like we did it,
Woo!
and kind of didn't look back until it was in the 70s that he heard about it. It was into the 80s before he was actually able to access any of the documents.
Oh, man.
Because they were still kept under lock and key, lest anybody find out about this stuff. So, moral of the story is...
King Leopold II was the worst. The
just an absolute
worst.
monster. Like, up there with, like, Haber and stuff.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Okay, I do have a way to wrap this up. Okay, so I'm going to take you back in time 1 week. 1 week ago, we're talking And we decide, okay, we're going to, for the 5th Thursday, we're going to do a special bonus story stream. And okay, subject, English, or not English, European royalty. And I say, okay, but I only have half the time to research. And I don't know anything about European royalty. This isn't my strong suit. I don't have any stories up my sleeve, right? Usually I've read about stuff in the past and I just have to brush up. This would be completely new research for me. And Lance says, well, let me softball you one. I heard about a King Leopold II that maybe you could talk about. Why don't you take that one? And I said, okay. Okay, so.
Yeah. Mike often does the more dark and depressing ones anyways.
I do, but.
I set him up.
He really did.
Straight up.
I shotgunned this book. This is King Leopold's Ghost. King Leopold's Ghost. Shotgunned this beast in 2 days. And it feels like my soul has a sunburn. It's it's just so much stuff and so many stories of heroism, right? You have your just everyday guys like Reverend Shepherd and like Casement and like Morell, who were just everyday guys. And like in the case of Williams and Shepherd, were black guys in a time when they were distinctly, like definitively second-class citizens. They stepped forward and said something and did something, and in the end brought down the leader of an international conspiracy. Wow. But, oh man, I wish it wasn't so bad. Let's circle back to our steamboat captain, Josef Theodor Konrad Koreniowski. He shortened his name to make it more marketable and started going by Joseph Conrad and wrote this little volume, Heart of Darkness, which many of you likely had to read in high school or college or something. It is one of the most influential stories, novellas, whatever you want to call it, of this time period. And after finishing that book, I felt like I had to read this. So I shotgunned that as well. Pretty incredible. Especially incredible when you realize it's only partially fiction. Many of the passages from this book were direct excerpts from Conrad's notebook that he kept while working as a steamboat captain on the Congo River.
Oh,
I have homework for you kids at home. If you don't have time to read Heart of Darkness, which is completely understandable, go listen to the song France Afrique by Refused. You'll know it because it starts with a children's choir chanting "Exterminate all the brutes," and then a Swedish guy screaming "Kill, kill, kill." These are both references to Heart of Darkness. And honestly, a pretty great Swedish punk song.
What on earth are you talking about? Okay, well, that happened.
It's a good way to sum things up.
Okay.
A little musical interlude for you.